Hello friends, this is Odds, although it's better in the books, and today's video is going to be a very straightforward guide on how to secure kills. This is important for any killer that is looking to get better, and also arguably for survivors, since this video will teach you some of the situations to avoid to give the killer free kills. Now, let it be said, before we go into the actual guide, that kills are not a one-to-one indicator of the quality of a game. In fact, many times you can play a really beautiful game and end up with 0 kills, and that's okay. As long as you don't let that get to you, and as long as you don't tie that to your self-worth, that's alright. But when you fight really hard and you feel like you played really well, how do you actually make it so that survivors don't actually slip through your fingers and end up getting escapes that you could have prevented? That's what we're gonna learn today. Let's get to it. Alright, so baby steps, how to secure 1 kill. It doesn't sound super exciting, but this is something that you can do in almost any game. No matter how well the survivors play, if you do some things right, they will have a very hard time getting 4 people out. And this is something that you can also apply later to always try to fight for an extra kill. So let's get the basics. This all starts with you downing a survivor, making sure you're not pallet stunned, flashy save, sabotaged against, and you put them on the hook. And at this point, if you're playing one of these characters that has an insta-down on command, or one of those other characters that has a lot of health state damage per second, you're pretty much already guaranteed a kill. If you sit right in front of the hook, that person will die, and if someone tries to rescue, there's a good chance that you'll kill them too, or at least end up in a trade where one person gets rescued, but then another person takes its place, and there you go. That's at least 1 kill. There are some situations, however, when you won't be playing any of these killers that make this super easy, and you'll be playing a killer that doesn't have this ability to insta-down, and then things get a bit more complicated. The most important factor to secure a kill in this situation is to make sure that you hook away from a gate that is open or that is about to be open. So you want to hook very far away from both gates or very close to a gate that is not at all completely open. If you do this, then things get a lot easier. If only one person comes for the unhook, you will have what's called a grab game. If this person is healthy, they'll do the unhooking and you'll try to grab them, but they'll probably stop, and then it will result in a hit, and then it will result in a trade after they rescue during your recovery, and then you get them later. Or alternatively, you might get a grab, and there you go, that's it. If for some reason that person uses the perk Dead Hard to go through the person they rescued, or they try to body block, this could get complicated, but as long as you're far away from the gate, you're most likely to do really well. If 2 people come for the rescue, this is more complicated. You need to understand that if these 2 people that are healthy play it well, you will not get anyone, and you cannot stop the rescue. One person will rescue, the other one will body block it in some capacity. If they do it well, and good survivors can do this well consistently, you will not interrupt this unhook. So you need to understand that what you need to do right now is change your focus. When someone is about to unhook, you want to hit them, and then run after them before they make it to the gate, and then rinse and repeat until someone hopefully is dead. And that's your idea. Likewise, if someone tries to go for a gate that is close and you can hit them and then beat them to the other gate, that's what you want to do. You want to switch your targets, because with 2 healthy survivors or more, they can almost guarantee that they'll make it out quite a few meters ahead. This is also another thing that can happen. By the way, if the person on the hook is on their first stage, they can also self-unhook. And this is a big risk. If a person is right next to an open gate and you hook them and they get lucky, or they have a perk like Deliverance to guarantee that they can self-unhook on their first stage, that person can just unhook, and if you hit them, they'll have base kit endurance, they'll just get the hell out of there. So you do not want to hook people next to open gates. Super important. A really nice idea sometimes to secure kills, if you cannot get far away from a gate, is to hook in the basement. Basement, even if it's right next to an exit gate, is really hard to get in and out of. And if you camp and sit on top of the opening of basement, you can hit any survivor, and if they go further in, you'll most likely down them down there. And if they go out, well, they don't get the rescue. So that's basically the idea of how to secure 1 kill. Make sure that you're very careful, try to get a grab, and when there's multiple survivors, understand that you need to be far away from the gates. And that's how you get 1 kill. Let's move on to the next. Okay, so after what we just learned, going for 2 kills is not that big of a stretch. You could sloppily chase 1 survivor for 5 gens, and if you have them dead by then you could catch 1 more person before the gates are open, and that's it. You apply what we just explained, and that's 2 kills. 2 kills can also happen very quickly in even really bad games at the end. If survivors make a little mistake, someone gets grabbed, or you have an insta down of some kind and 2 people go on the ground, and then you can push the remaining survivors out of the game, that can be easily 2 kills out of nowhere. But it's not something you should aim for. The devs, yes, they want the game to be balanced around 2 kills, but 2 kills should never be your goal. If you're going to try to play well from the start, your goal should be higher, and 2 kills should be the natural result of you playing very well, making some mistakes maybe, and survivors playing pretty well but also making some mistakes. That's the best kind of result. So we're not really going to get into how to get 2 kills. That will be something that will happen naturally when the survivors put up a good fight and you also play correctly. Let's get a little bit more optimistic. Let's aim a little bit higher. Any match that ends in 3 kills is a very good result for Killer, and sometimes these wins will be narrow, sometimes they'll be very dominating performances, but if you can get 3 kills consistently, that will be a very good sign that you're getting better, and also it will increase your MMR until you hit the cap, and you'll play against better and better survivors as you do so. So, how do we get there? There are 2 principles, 2 guidelines or goals that you should aim towards that help a lot in securing 3 kills or more. And they are the following, and they're very optimistic, I'm telling you already. Number 1 is to have 1 survivor at least be dead on hook by the time there are 3 to 2 gens left. That is, to have 1 survivor that has been hooked twice and is now in imminent peril of being dead. And number 2 is to have 1 survivor dead before the endgame happens or as the endgame happens. And it's very important. If you have a survivor that is in imminent peril of being hooked and killed, the entire team will understand that that is a weakness and they will move to protect it. And in doing so, they'll make mistakes that you can take advantage of. If you don't have any survivor dead on hook and it's the middle of the game, survivors don't have any weakness. They all have freedom to do whatever they like, and any one of them could use one of many perks to really stall you and hold you back a lot while everyone else finishes repairs. You need survivors to have a weak point. That's why it's very important to at least have 1 person that you're going to focus on that will be dead on hook. If not dead, at least dead on hook before the half point of the match or so. And the other simple reason why you don't want 4 survivors in the endgame or near the endgame is because they're impossible to hold. For most killers, 4 survivors are they're just too many. There's almost nothing you can do to prevent one of those 4 survivors from opening a gate and just leaving and having another one quickly come in and also leaving with them. There's just very little you can do. Whereas if you have 3 survivors or less, suddenly they are very much handicapped in what they can do. 1 person on the ground and 1 person being chased means that the other person, the only survivor remaining, now has to come and help out, or else they're just giving up. So it's very, very important as well that we're going to try to get 1 person killed before the endgame. Now, for the principles on how to do this and some more concrete advice. At the start of the game, seek out the further gens that spawn away from you and try to bother people there. You don't necessarily want to take up chase with a single survivor that you spot in the open. If you take a free hit, that's fine. You want to bother multiple people on gens so that they have to be displaced and you buy yourself some time. You'll eventually want to settle for whoever gives you a free hit and seems like it will be an easy or easier down, and try to commit to that person and down them before many gens get done. Many perks for endgame like Discordance, Lethal Pursuer, Corrupt Intervention can buy a lot of time here and help you know where to go. So by all means, use one of these perks for a little bit of help depending on your build. Once that person has been down and you put them on the hook, ideally you want to hook them near gens that are being worked on to buy yourself time. You might think that because we need 1 person dead on hook as soon as possible, that it's best to focus on this primary target, let's call him Dwight, and focus on him a lot. But it's actually not a good idea. If you focus on 1 survivor only, there are many things that you are exposed to. Number 1, this 1 survivor could be the best survivor that you've ever played against. Number 2, he could have a lot of really good perks to prevent you from catching them, such as off the record or some chase perks used correctly, which could make tunneling that person very risky. And you're also exposing yourself for other survivors to focus on gens. They'll have 2 to 3 people doing gens constantly, and those people have never been hooked, so it's very possible that in the end game you'll have lucky unhooks or deliverances or all that kind of nasty stuff. So this is actually not ideal. You don't want to focus on the survivor alone. Once you've hooked him, you want to find another survivor and try to hook them as quickly as possible. If you do this right, you will mobilize the entire team. You'll have one other survivor go for the first one, and hopefully the fourth coming for this one at some point. And now you'll have 2 survivors, let's say Dwight and Meg, who are both susceptible to being hooked again and being dead on hook. And you have a choice. You can go for the first survivor, you can go for the second survivor. If you go for someone that has been unhooked recently, remember, they'll be immune and have endurance for 10 seconds, which can be 20 seconds with borrowed time. If you're right on top of them, you don't want to wait it out. If you're already on top of them, just hit them. It is the best thing you can do, and this will also get rid of off the record. Off the record is a really nasty perk that survivors use and abuse because it's really good, and it makes them have a borrowed time effect basically for 80 whole seconds, and they also become silent. They have no injured noises. So if you choose a survivor that makes no injured noises, that's a cue that that person has off the record, and if you hit them, they'll probably tank the hit. One important thing though is that all of these endurance instances wear off and disappear immediately if these survivors heal, if they unhook someone else, if they touch a gen or do certain other rare actions. That person is vulnerable. So if someone that has been unhooked is healing and you interrupt them, you know 100% that you can hit them no matter what, they're gonna go down, and that is really, really, really good. Once you have one person dead on hook, the team will begin to act differently. They will often try their best to take hits for that person, protect them, and sometimes even feed you hits and downs that you normally wouldn't get. And you don't necessarily always want to take these free hits because some of them are poisoned. And this is where your perks can help out a lot in deciding what you want to do. Do you want to go for someone else, or do you want to focus on this person that is dead on hook? Focusing on the 1 to 2 survivors that are soon to be dead and ignoring the people that you haven't hooked yet is typically the best idea. But sometimes if one of those survivors that are fresh hooks that you haven't hooked yet comes into your view and tries to get into your way, there are some exceptions where hitting them or interacting with them for a little bit can actually be beneficial. And it mostly has to do with your perks and add-ons. I'm going to make a little list of exceptions where if you have these perks or if you have these conditions, it's actually a pretty good idea to spend a bit of time with that person, because that time will actually get back at you and you'll have more time to ultimately kill everyone. Once one survivor is dead on hook and you down them, do not mess around. Do not give them a chance to go for a flashy save, for a pallet stun. A person dead should be taken almost immediately as a massive priority, even if other people are trying to give you free hits, free downs. Once one person is fully capable of dying, you take that as soon as you possibly can. And once you have 3 survivors remaining, it is a completely different story. The moment you leave one of them on the ground or on the hook, remember that on the ground it's risky, that person is useless. Someone else will have to go bother and rescue them, and if you chase that person, now the third person will also have to come, and you have the entire team paralyzed. So once you get that first kill, it's almost very, very difficult, if not impossible, for survivors to come back and get a good result from that. That's your goal. Alright, so we've explained how to deal with a survivor team and kill most of them, but sometimes the final survivor can just hide for a long time, be a bit lucky with the hatch, or even have one of those perks that can help them speed up the exit gate opening and get out by themselves. This is okay. I don't think you should fight super hard for the 4th kill. This can waste a lot of your time leaving the last survivor on the ground and then looking for the actual one person that's standing. It could take a very long time. I generally don't recommend you really invest a lot of time in getting 4 kills. If you get the 4th kill, it should be the cherry on top rather than your actual goal. But if you're still inclined to get 4 kills no matter what, there are some things that help. If you use a hatch offering to choose where the hatch spawns, you can kill your 3rd survivor and then close the hatch yourself, knowing where it will spawn with a very high likelihood, and then simply patrol the gates. To make gates very hard to be opened by survivors, you can use the perk No Way Out, a perk from Trickster that makes gate opening almost impossible. Or you can sometimes use your power. Some killers like Trapper can trap the exit gates or leave their power near the gate or shoot at their gate with projectiles like Artist. And this can also make it very difficult for a survivor to escape. So if you want to get the 4th kill, that's your way to do it. And hopefully this video has helped you in one way or another. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.